Start recording this guy. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome. Hope everyone is doing well. We'll get started. People can join in. You can walk away. You can do whatever. Just remember, if your computer's on, we likely can see you, which may be terrifying. Just pre-warning. Couple things. Let me just do a couple quick housekeeping pieces. First of all, hopefully everybody saw, so the calendar that you guys got this past Sunday looks a teeny bit different than it has in the past. We added sort of another level, which is just some of the things that are going on now and you know, for the foreseeable future. Just to kind of give you an idea of things, if we can, you know, schedule some things into the weeks, we will add it and you'll see it there. So we'll have basically, you know, a running or walking calendar at the top, weekly schedule, if you will. And then at the bottom or below that, you'll see kind of other goings on. So it'll be easy for you to follow, hopefully easy to follow. And please, if it's not, let me know, give me some feedback if it looks terrible or it's confusing or whatever. I try to clean up actually the whole calendar a little bit. So we spent some time kind of reformatting a little bit. So hopefully it's easy to decipher what we were talking about there. But we're always welcome. We always welcome some input and feedback. So if there's other thoughts, please let me know. As of this afternoon, we sort of updated things on the YouTube channel. So things are organized a little more clearly, I hope, as well. So we added some additional exercises. Leslie was kind enough to record some additional things, which we've added in there. And then your other friend, Caroline, is in the process of, on her second or third day of downloading some stuff.
It'll be ready in an hour. Jeff fixed it.
Yeah, it worked?
We think. We got to use my computer and my phone together.
Excellent.
So it's fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you. So we'll have some additional content on there, but now things are kind of organized a little more simply. So when you get into the YouTube channel, you'll see kind of more detail broken out, kind of in a little more clear organization. So hopefully that helps and people can find what they're looking for. We'll continue to add things as well. So there's some new content on there as of today. And again, it's reorganized. So to give you a chance to run through things. So tonight, one of the things we wanted to talk about, and we've been sort of talking about even for the last several weeks, but haven't brought it up as a specific topic, is kind of, you know, a lot of people have been talking how they don't feel great. They feel, you know, every run is hard. Every time they go outside, they feel, you know, beaten down. Every time they get back, they're tired, you know, or they're just not feeling real confident or comfortable with what they're doing when they're out there. And so we wanted to kind of bring some things up and talk about it. You know, it's going to sound funny when I say this, but you know, feel comfortable talking about it here. I mean, I'll share my tiny story from tonight. I mean, I went out and run. You know, I've been now running outside for almost a week, well, 5 days or whatever. And I went out for a run tonight thinking like, oh, this will be great. I was going to go fast and, you know, just see how I felt. And I got, first 2 miles were pretty good. The next 2.5 miles were mixed with about stopping and walking or just stopping altogether, probably 7 to 10 times. And just kind of standing there and like shaking my head like I feel awful. And I did. I felt absolutely awful. I was exhausted. My legs hurt. Couldn't breathe. And you know, I know there's a combination of reasons why that's the case. I have bad allergies. It's hot. To me, it's hot. It's humid. I felt like garbage. My legs are shot because I'm old, fat, and tired because I sat around for the 2 months and didn't do anything. So, you know, there's all kinds of reasons, and you know, some of them we'll all have in common. Some of them we won't. So we're going to share a couple of thoughts about, you know, kind of global concepts. And then, of course, we welcome individual commentary, questions, thoughts, anything that you'd like to share about it, because I think, you know, it's something that probably at least we've all felt at least a little bit. So we'll share some of that in a moment. Also, again, remember, hopefully you all can see the chat alongside of your screen or at the bottom. So you will see lots of places to share. If you have questions, there's an option on your screens to raise your hand. You can do that. again, or you can type questions on the side as well. So I'm going to turn a lot of this over to Laura. If you don't know Laura, she is the scientist that lives in my house. And you guys are all about to experience what I experience on a regular basis. And I can see Corky laughing because
Corky works with Laura, so she gets it.
And your world is about to get turned upside down. So I will now turn Science World over to Laura.
This is so tame compared to what I would have done if we did the nutrition lecture. All right. Let's see if I can share my screen. How's that working? Can everyone see that?
I see something. Ooh. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Now I need to figure out how to do the chat function.
I'm going to put a pencil in my ear. So
No, don't do that. All right, hold on 1 second. I'm going to do one thing. Huh? Putting a pencil in your ear doesn't work? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to share a link over on the side in the chat. There we go. Can everyone hear me? Nod. There we go. Outstanding. All right, so what we're talking about is basically running during this crazy pandemic and weirdness that we're currently calling life, right? And a number of people either on the Facebook group or reaching out to us individually or even in the response kind of questionnaire that we send out asking people what they would like to talk about have brought up the issue of feeling kind of off or feeling not great with their running. And we know that obviously it's no mystery that this is going to be a reflection of what is going on. But we thought it would be a lot more helpful to really understand what everyone here tonight is experiencing. So if you all will, I put that link in the chat. It's 4 questions. It's a little 4-question survey so that we can actually take a look at what everybody is feeling and how everybody is experiencing this and similarities and differences. So if you all want to take that link, paste it into your browser and do that real quick. You mute your sound. That's why I sound echoey, right? No, like the actual sound on your computer, mute it. Okay. So now, is the echo better now? All right, I know there are more than 4 of you on here. Oh, there it goes. Look at that. Look at how fun this is. It's live technology. It's all changing. Everyone's responding. We've got 8 of you. I'm going to give you guys a couple more minutes to be able to do that. Fixing the sound. There are 31 of you on this call. There are 12 responses. 13, there we go. 15, give it another minute. All right. So as this is coming in, we have enough people where we should be able to see a trend. And what is kind of interesting is if we look here, right, we can see that most of you are like, it's fine. But there's going to be a significant part of the my runs are a struggle or my runs are way worse than normal than if we look at my runs feel pretty good or better than usual. Every run is better. So we can see that we're not everybody's feeling that great. Overall, people start saying they're feeling sluggish, which is really interesting, and unmotivated. So that and slow are kind of our top picks there. A couple people are feeling speedy, refreshed, and excited. Amy Manning told me that she thinks that she's actually caught up on sleep since residency, which is fantastic for her. I don't. I have an alarm clock called a 4-month-old that gets up every morning at 6. And then if we come down here, we look at different types of factors that are affecting your running or your walking or all of your exercise. Weather, pollen, Rick predicted that was going to be a pretty big one, but I see some, not as much. It's just you. No, I'm just kidding. Temperature, humidity is coming back, daylight duration. And then in the past 2 weeks, I've experienced choose all that has applied. This is kind of independent of necessarily running, but disruption to your training, that should have been like 100% because everybody's races are canceled unless you aren't racing, which would have been me. So I guess I wouldn't have chosen that one. Disruption to your routine. Almost all of us are working from home unless you're in an essential role. Anxiety, uncertainty, and increase in stress. Getting more, so it's booting me back up. Are our numbers still the same? Oh, look, sluggish, we've got even more, 15, 60%. So sluggish and slow account for a lot of this. You can choose more than apply, that's why it doesn't add up to 100. So that kind of just gives you an overview of what everybody is feeling. All right, let's go back. So Rick and I were talking a lot about this, and one thing that kind of occurred to us, and I think it was Rick who first brought it up, was also maybe how you feel when you experience tapering. So we're trying to figure out how do we contextualize this and how do we, how can we find ways to suggest people can cope a little bit better. So I'm going to do the same thing and put a different screen or a different link now. Into the chat. Now pick that one and let's play the same game and we can see how we can compare this. All right. We got our first. There we go. It's so fun to see it move. We're working on it. We have to at least match the other one. What was the other one we got? Up to 25, so we can have comparable. 16, 17. Moving a little bit. 27.
That
Oh,
means somebody
someone
did
else
first
played the
one.
game this time. You ruined our results. No, it's fine.
28.
All right, so the majority, you can see that those pies are kind of glowing in 3 different areas. Overwhelmingly, people say during taper you feel okay. I have some tough days, some good ones, some bad ones too. That their runs are a struggle, or some of them feel great. So you have more people saying they feel great during taper, but what is similar is you have a lot of kind of in the middle and sluggish runs. If we look at our taper running and walking, we definitely have more positive sentiment with excitement and speedy and refreshed. But you also see a lot of those sluggish feelings. You also see a lot of that slow, less of the unmotivated. That's probably because you have a race coming up, so you're motivated to do something. And then also during taper, you tend to experience anxiety, uncertainty, and disruption to your training, right? Disruption to your routine, and increased stress. So we do see some of these things that are mimicking each other. So I'm going to hand it back over to Rick to kind of discuss a couple of these things and unmute people. And they can talk about it a little bit. And then I'm going to put these together side by side so we can actually compare it a little bit more before we go into our discussion of, so what can we do about all of this? I'm going to mute myself and unshare my screen. Make sure you turn on your.
All right, guys. Hopefully you can hear me. Well, not hopefully for some of you, maybe that's a better, that's all relative, right? So I think, so as Laura said, like, I kind of like this popped into my head the other day when people were talking about how they felt and they were so tired and just, why does it feel hard? And to me, the most obvious comparison was, taper, and what happens in a taper and sort of this, I want to be dramatic here, but everything goes, you're up, and everything's sort of adrenaline and the excitement of training, and you've done your longest run, and all these things that kind of come along with doing a full training season, and then of course getting to that point where it's the taper, and everybody says, "Oh, great, we're tapering. Like I don't have to do all the long runs. I don't have to do the mileage, that kind of thing." And then instantly everybody says, "Oh my God, I feel awful." At least it seems to be a common thread. And, I think there's a lot of things that come into play. Obviously, some of the things that you all just saw, but there's things that affect us all, personally as well, and how we feel. One of them, at least for me, is that sort of adrenaline. Just the air comes out of the room almost, and it's just you feel like like what am I going to do with myself? I'm kind of it's almost like I don't want to say boring, but it's like all this excitement that you built up for, and then it kind of stops because you have to wait 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it might be that you're tapering to get to race day, and it just feels brutal. I remember years ago, this is anecdotal, but it's I think it's a common feeling for people, and that is Laura and I, the Saturday morning, we actually were going to run Boston. It was Laura's first Boston Marathon, which happened to sadly be the year of the Boston bombing. But we were in Cincinnati Saturday morning before we left to fly to Boston. And we said, "Oh, let's go do our, kind of, easy shakeout run now." This was Saturday morning. And so let's go do our shakeout run. And we left our house and we ran 2 miles out and then 2 miles back. And we're just like, 4 miles, it'll be easy, slow pace, everything. And we got to exactly 2 miles, which was for us at the top of Delta Avenue and Erie Avenue. And we got to the top, and the two of us were like, leaning over and holding onto our knees, and breathe, like could barely talk, breathing really hard. And I looked at her, and I, full language coming here. I looked at her and I was like, I feel like shit. I just said, I just feel awful. Like, why do I feel so bad? She's like, that's okay. I feel exactly the same way. I just feel like absolute garbage. And we're like, what's going on? And obviously we knew had been in tapering, and we knew the race was for not for a couple of days and all this stuff, and it was just a combination of things. But I think that it just is, it sort of exemplified how many of us feel when things are, one, changed dramatically, which obviously currently things have been changed dramatically. And also, I think when things are out of our control. And, at least now, I think there are so many things, at least environmentally, that are out of our control. And when that happens, I think we're searching, almost like searching for the answer. And every time we go run, we're trying to find, like, today's going to be the day. It's going to be better. And today I can, go do hill repeats, for example, which was on the schedule. And that's going to feel great, or at least be invigorating. And then when it's not, we can't figure out why. But there are all kinds of reasons. I saw Danette posted something today in the group, and I think that it is a good, it's kind of a good lesson. It's not a lesson so much as it is, I guess, a good opportunity to play it, into your own training or running or walking or whatever. And that is, because we don't have a specific necessarily target in mind. I mean, many of us have targets, but they're now pushed much further down the road. It's almost like you want purpose to what you're doing. And, as I said in some of the recent emails, maybe a little too much even, is, take the time. Like we have kind of a weird opportunity right now to sort of reinvigorate ourselves and even our training and our running and what it is that it means to us, and lots of things in life, what they mean to us right now, just because it is so different. Hopefully it is something we'll never encounter again, at least in our lifetime. And so in a kind of a crazy way, though, it's an opportunity. And so, what I would say is, take the opportunity. I don't want to use the word slow down, but slow down. And what I mean by slow down is not necessarily your pace, but slow down like the world around you, and kind of just breathe a little bit and enjoy it and relax. Don't put pressure on yourself, and allow yourself the opportunity to sort of enjoy, I guess, what I'll call some freedoms. I mean, there are some freedoms here that we don't otherwise have. I mean, our schedules have hopefully in many ways gotten very open. I know people with kids. I mean, like Laura and I are running around like chickens with our heads cut off because there's kids now all the time around us. But I think that, it's for many people an opportunity to sort of like reflect and process. And so, take this opportunity to do that. And I think much of what you're experiencing, or at least many of us will experience in a couple of scenarios, will hopefully come out of this on a much more positive note. So I'm going to turn some things back over to Laura now. And then, of course, guys, we want people to start chiming in and sharing thoughts, questions, and other ideas. So feel free to do so.
All right. So you saw these just a moment ago, but we're going to put them side by side so that they are easier to compare. So what we can see is the red, green, and orange are similar between the two. It's a little bit less dramatic with taper and a little bit more positive, but you see that they're the same. At both times you tend to feel either so-so, struggling during your runs, or you're feeling okay. We can also see those similar trends with feeling slow, feeling sluggish. The unmotivated is different because that one's a big one here, but not here, but sluggish, and then slow. And then finally, with the uncertainty, you have that, which I think is going to be interesting, but not surprising. And then disruption in your routine. So who cares? What can you do about it, right? I was going to put things in there, and then I didn't do it. We'll just move on from that. So how is tapering like a pandemic? So kind of what we're looking at with how everybody responded and kind of what we expected, you've pulled back on all of your running mileage, right? But the difference is with your taper, you have a purpose for doing that. Now you are kind of just hanging out there, right? The race is important to you. During taper, you feel that anxiety and that pressure because you're about to race. Right now, the race hasn't lost its importance. It just, now you don't have it. And so you're experiencing the same stress with, or similar stress with taper, it's just for a different reason. You're facing the unknown. When you're about to go do a race, whether it's your first marathon, your 10th half marathon, or your 50th, right? You still never know how it's going to turn out. So there's always that facing the unknown. And we are having this kind of prolonged experience of facing the unknown here as well. You doubt your training. I think that everybody has at least, once in their running or walking career, right, has experienced this doubt of like, well, did I do enough? Was it okay? And you don't know how that race is going to go. You're experiencing something similar here, except you're never going to know how your training went, right? Because you actually don't have the ability to realize that potential because all of the races have been canceled. And then just that fear of missing out, right? We all have that. And now we don't have each other. So we have that a little bit more. So I think that there are clear parallels to be drawn, but the main difference is under normal circumstances, we are used to this finite ending in, our race. And now it's this kind of just nebulous, uncertainty of what's to come. Exactly. Thank you, Rick. That was the word I was looking for. Oh, no one can hear you? So what can you do about it? None of these are earth-shattering, so I hope that you aren't coming here tonight to have, some big epiphanies, but this is kind of what we thought about. Distract yourself. So all those fun things that you've been putting off because you've been training for your marathon or your half marathon or your whatever race you were going to do, now you can focus on those things. Everyone's always talking about nutrition and eating better. Matt Beck, this is your opportunity. It's time. Today's the day. We have the food project. We're putting all of our little things up here, but of course, I mean, there's so many other things that you can do too. Books. Everyone wants to read more. I want to. Exercise. We see a lot of the booms coming out of exercise now. Everything is being sold out on all of these different like apparel and shoes and all of the, and Garmin is actually a little bit low on some of their stock with some things because I'm getting a new watch, so I know that information. He knows. What? Stay connected. I think that staying connected with people, with your family, obviously you can't do that in person, but there are a lot of different ways to do that. Text, what we're doing now, Zoom calls, you can actually get up to a bunch of, what's the free one that you can get up to how many people? Zoom. I know. How many people can you have on the free account? 50? 100?
This isn't free, so I don't know.
I think you can still have 100. It's just a 40-minute limit. Anyway.
Find a routine. As odd as that sounds, I think that the challenge of there is actually challenge in not having a routine. So even though I joke about it, I getting up every morning and going for my run and then going and sitting and working and having that routine is really helpful. I really like routine. I strive on the ability to do the exact same thing over and over and over again. So that's really helpful. And I think that people kind of just are out there and without any routine, it can actually make the entire situation feel more overwhelming. And then finally, I think find appreciation. This was an image that was shared on Facebook, and I just pulled it off. And I like it because it's kind of the growth mindset.
Because it's science.
Because this is the idea of the growth mindset, right? So like, how are you going to face this time of uncertainty and this kind of roadblock, right? So I'm glad that this happened during the summer because we can go out and run. We can still run, and I think those are things to be thankful for if you're thinking in the context of running. I'm personally thankful because now I'm not missing, being selfish, any races because I'm postpartum. I actually get to train through this and then come back and hopefully run with all of my friends again when everyone starts running. So I think that's a benefit. I know Rick's real pleased because he's going to be able to do the pig. So there's just finding little things to be happy about. And obviously we're not sick, so that's another thing. I get to spend more time with my kids and my son as he's an infant. So just I think finding little things every day, even if it's one thing a day, can be really helpful. So that's really all we pulled together, but we wanted to hear from you guys what you were experiencing and how you were coping with it and anything that's working for you or not working for you. And I think by sharing that with the group, it'll be really helpful.
All right, guys. So hopefully that gives, again, it's just perspective. It's, some thoughts about it. It's obviously not going to be a blanket statement or blanket information for everyone, but some thoughts and some ideas about it. And like to Laura's point, everybody has different views and different perspectives. I know Marie was commenting and saying, like sometimes the tapers don't feel brutal to her, and that, yeah, and again, none of this is 100% for everyone. I think the idea here is that there's some broad things that we all at least are familiar with, and we all kind of like, even if we're not experiencing it ourselves, we might be seeing it, or at least hearing about it from other friends or our family, people who are taking part in it, even if they're not running, for example. But I know, like, my mom and dad, who are neither one are runners, and they think we're crazy. They're just going stir crazy. I mean, they're just sitting at home and they're kind of losing minds. They're super bored. The good news is they're now taking walks every day, which is great. Something they haven't done for a long time, and now they're kind of back to doing it, which is great. But they're kind of like going a little stir crazy, and for a lot of people, stir crazy mixed with kind of pulling back on training is kind of a weird mix. And so, I get it. I get how it can be a little wonky. So we want people to talk about it. So please, if you feel like chime in. One quick note before people start asking questions or chiming in. I saw Paul get up. I want to again congratulate, for those who saw my post about Mike Cannon the other day, doing the backyard ultra, is something. I accidentally came upon Mike 3 times on the trail right outside of our house, which is directly behind me, and just kind of randomly saw him 3 separate times, but over many hours, and finally realized what he was doing. But Paul, I think, was in the Paul, you can share how many miles you did that day, if you'd like. Unmute yourself and tell us.
I ended up with 29. I thought I would do much more, but I just wasn't feeling it. So it was.
No, that's
it.
it's about 28 more miles than I would have done. So that's pretty good. That's pretty awesome. Congrats. And then I know I saw him on here earlier. I think Drew may still be on here. Drew, I don't know if you're still on here, but if you are, chime in. Drew had a hell of a day. If I'm not mistaken, I think Drew was around 63 miles. Drew, if you're still on here. I see you. Unmute yourself. Oh, you might be unmuted.
Hey, Nate, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, kind of on a whim. Chad Hess said, hey, there's this ultra. You want to try it? And it was like 8 days before. And so I said, well, I was training for back-to-back marathons. Let's just go for it. And we had set a goal for 8 laps. And
which would have been 33, 34,
like 33 to 34 miles or so. Yeah. and then got to 8, had enough food prepped and everything. I just said, all right, I'm going to keep going. So next goal is to 50, hit 50. And then at that point, I do have some videos. They're rather hilarious, and maybe I'll share sometime. But at 50, I said, all right, I'll go to 63 for the full 100K. And I'm stopping no matter what, because it wasn't really what I trained for. But it was an absolute blast. Definitely something different. I was on a Zoom call with 1,000 people that I didn't know. And then I was on a separate one with Chad and a couple other people from the running group. And we were just chatting in between the loops as well. So definitely a good way to stay connected is just through something like this, where, you know, you can go run for a couple miles, come back, hang out, and go out for more or whatever. I saw other people using their phones and actually just talking on the phone as they were going. So
It's very cool. Congrats. I think it's really neat. Congrats to you. And of course, congrats to Chad as well, who I don't think is on here, but way to go. That was very cool to watch. Guys, and by the way, if anybody's grossed out, these are my, those are my stitches on one side, and then here's the stitches on the other side. But I can actually turn my
Put
wrist.
those away.
Sorry, it's my wrist. I can actually do stuff with it. Can't bend it, but I can.
Guys, guess who gets to take the stitches out?
Yeah, we'll film that.
Laura
Or gets to do the stitches in 2 weeks, or in a week and a half, I guess. So
That
okay.
is my
So
knee cracking video.
what?
Almost as bad as my knee cracking video.
Yeah, that was gross. Number one, Paul is right. Make sure you look at the moon after this phone call, or during this phone call. It's supposed to be an amazing moon tonight. So enjoy it. Brightest moon of the year. We need some bright spots in this year, so let's take a shot at it. All right. So does anybody have any thoughts, questions, stories they want to share, ideas? Have at it, because I don't want to keep talking. And go. And go.
I guess I can chime in because I'm never
Yeah.
quiet.
Please.
No, I mean, I've talked to Chad with a couple of different BE people because we've been going through this. First of all, Laura, like that's super helpful to kind of put in the context of a taper. In some ways, I thought of like, yeah, this feels like if taper is 1 standard deviation, this is like 2 or maybe 3 or something. I know also like one thing for me, like, so like I have generalized anxiety disorder, I have depression. I know I'm not in any way, shape, or form alone in that. So I know for me, like, and other people, that's almost been like an extra layer, like turning up to 11. One thing that I found helpful, and I think this could probably apply to running as well, is like try and fall back on basics, like things I know that have worked for me in the past when like I've been having a really hard time or I've been in a crisis mode, be it like meditation, different sorts of exercises, like mental and even physical exercises. And I think that could apply same to like taper. Like think about what are the types of things that work for you, you know, even from a running standpoint, be it, you know, just slowing down, be it, you know, certain things that are going to help you recenter. So I don't know. Those are things that are kind of keeping me going, just trying to get back to basics and get out of because I don't think any of us are coasting. Right.
No. I mean, I think. Thanks, John. I think you're right. I mean, I mean, at least. I mean, I'm a mess. I'm all my schedule's completely trashed because I wasn't really doing anything before anyway. So I'm not a great example of like I was at full throttle and then pulled the chute. But again, like I don't think this is. We're in a bit of uncharted territory, so I don't really think this is easy for anybody in any logical way. Nothing's like following a pattern here, and so I think people are kind of all over the place. And I want you guys to understand, while during the training season, we try to provide very clear, sort of directives, and everything's very planned and everything's very deliberate. And it's kind of one of the hallmarks of the group, at least I think it is. And it's not that I don't want to provide that anymore. In no way, shape, or form is that the case. But right at this moment, the key is that we don't have that necessity. We don't necessarily have that same, I'll say, sort of draw or pull happening where it's you know, calling us to some specific race or some specific goal, because I mean, at least unless somebody knows something I don't, it's all kind of up in the air right now. And you know, I think there's two ways to look at that. You can look at it and, like to John's point, you know, have anxiety about it and let it get you down, or you can look at it and say, you know what, like, it's okay. I don't have to have this specificity when it comes to a goal. I can just enjoy what I'm doing and get value out of it. And as I mentioned before, you can also choose to focus on maybe some details and pieces of what you do running wise that you don't typically focus on. You know, even when you're out, think about your form. How's your foot landing when it hits the ground? You know, crazy things that maybe are valuable to you. You know, what is your breathing pattern? Like, what's happening as you're running? Are you looking around? Do you even notice anything around you? You know, you listen to music when you run, or do you not listen to music? Maybe if you take your watch with you on every single run, don't take your watch and see what happens. You know, that kind of stuff. And play around with it, because at the end of the day, nothing is very deliberate right now. So you might as well kind of have fun with it, I guess I'd say. And try to enjoy and find value in the things, find joy and find value in the things that sort of probably drew us to this sport in the first place, which is it relaxes us and it takes the stress out of our day, and it allows us to be, I guess I'll say, you know, in a funny way, it actually allows us to plan, and you all have a plan. I mean, there's still something on the horizon. All of us have a horizon out there. It's just we don't know how long it's going to take us to get there. And so, again, take the opportunity and have a little fun with it, I guess is what I'm saying. And, you know, everyone's version of fun can be different, but, you know, there's no question this is in many ways stressful for people, and I totally get that. It stinks, you know, for many of us. I mean, like I said, my run tonight sucked. I mean, it's just there's no two ways about it. I mean, I didn't feel good in any way, shape, or form. So, you know, just make sure that you try to get out and enjoy those things. So, all right, somebody else. Did you want to talk, Laura? Laura doesn't want to talk.
I'll talk.
Oh, Leslie.
Hello.
Hi, I haven't talked to you in days.
I know it's been so long. It seems, I don't know. Seems like 5 minutes.
I know.
I will say that like the first couple of weeks of this, like, I mean, my runs have been pretty kind of terrible feeling. I mean, most of them. I've had a couple of good ones, but for the most part, it's just been like, you know, I just feel slow and tired and whatever. But like in the first couple of weeks, I just felt like, you know, why is this so awful? But then like my dog's about to start barking, so sorry. Then I just kind of started realizing like I don't necessarily feel on the surface overly stressed or anxious. Like, you know, I have a bit of a routine because I'm still working, and so like to me I don't feel like I'm really stressed out or anything, but this is completely unprecedented, and I'm like, no one knows how to handle this, or we're completely thrown into this like out of nowhere. So I'm sure that there's a level of stress and anxiety that's happening that I'm not really even aware of, and that's having an effect. So like now in the last week or so, I've just kind of given myself a little bit of grace and allowed myself to just, you know, run and slow way down, way slower than I would if I need to, and, you know, stop if I want to, take a walk if that's what I feel like instead. And it's been okay the last week. I still don't feel great, but I just don't feel mentally as bad about it. It's my 2 cents.
That's great.
I have a cent to add to Leslie's 2 cents.
Oh, hi. Hi, Caroline.
Hi. I just kind of echo Leslie. Like, I would say the first couple weeks of this, I was like, this is so great. I am creating my own schedule. I'm working from home. My runs feel great. And then I'd say like over the past week, especially today, my run sucked and I hated every second of it. And I stopped 10 times and kept telling myself, all right, just get to that tree or get to that stop sign and then you can take a break or take a drink. But I also think like the most important thing is just to kind of maintain staying active, but try not to put so much pressure on yourself because, I mean, we're going through a pandemic for God's sake. So initially, like when we first were working from home, I had all this downtime. I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to get so much done. But I kind of have to take a step back and be like, you know what? I don't have to be super productive during this time. Like maybe this is the universe's way of kind of telling us all to take a step back and even just reassess, you know, how we go forward once this whole thing kind of passes, which no one knows when that's going to be, but just kind of taking things a day at a time and trying not to get too structured. But I know some people thrive off routine, but just kind of give yourself a little bit of love.
I think that both Caroline and Leslie make really good points. And I think as runners and walkers, we all say that our training is a mechanism by which we can release our stress, right? But it's very easy to forget that our mode of stress relief, running or walking in our training, is in and of itself a physical stressor. And so if we're in this environment, right, where we're super stressed, even though you feel very adaptable, and like Leslie said, she didn't feel outwardly stressed, and maybe you're not perceiving it, you are experiencing it. You are experiencing disruption, and your body is experiencing that. If you are pushing yourself running as well, then it is going to be very counterproductive because it no longer is an outlet for stress, right? It is more stress, and then your body is just going to get into that vicious cycle, and that's gonna really not be good. So I think that idea of, yes, you can have a routine in that you go and run, but you have to be kind of adaptable with that. And as Leslie and Caroline were saying, so that it continues to be an outlet and it is not counterproductive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Or Arnold.
Yeah, I got 3 tips for you guys.
You're muted. You're muted.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Maybe.
I can hear you just fine.
Cool,
Here?
sweet. So I have 3 tips for you guys. 1 running related, 1 personal, and 1 professional, because I know that a lot of us are probably a little stressed about kind of what our jobs are going to look like in the next like 6 months, 12 months. I work in advertising, so it's incredibly scary. So for running related, just trying to go a little bit farther, kind of like what Caroline and Drew were saying, you know, just try and go like maybe a mile farther or half a mile farther, you know, just something that's attainable, maybe not focusing on speed, but just even just getting out the door and just running when you don't feel like it, celebrating these smaller victories that you can set for yourself. And then, you know, just giving yourself a little bit of grace, which I think, you know, other people were alluding to, and, you know, cutting yourself some slack and just celebrating what you can. For personal, I found, and this is a tip from my husband, I like to stay up to date, but checking the news can really make you very anxious. So monitor what you're looking at. Maybe not look at CNN so much. Look at the New York Times. Listen to the briefings from DeWine and Bashir at 2 and 5, which are usually very dependable and very helpful. But don't feel like you have to just constantly be watching things. It's happening whether you're there or not, and you will learn the important news from the people that you trust. So don't stir yourself up into this anxious panic. And then the 3rd tip, professionally, is this library card. So I don't know if you guys know it, but there is a program called Lynda, which is also LinkedIn Learning. And you have access to LinkedIn Learning and Lynda through your library card. It's usually like $260 a year through LinkedIn, but there are hundreds of professional courses, everything from strategic thinking to, you know, developing your skill set. And if you're feeling kind of frustrated, or if you're feeling uncertain about what your job is going to look like in the next year, start building that up. You can add things to your profile. You can learn really interesting things, and it's super helpful. And there are all levels of skills on there. So those are my 3 tips.
That's awesome. Thank you. My wife just said Linda's the best. She's muted, so you couldn't hear her. That's great. That's awesome. Thanks, Laura. Anybody else? Please share.
It's interesting because I've been working home, you know, in the technology field for like the last 7 years or so, and it's easy for me because this is my schedule really hasn't changed at all. And actually our business is actually increasing because we're helping customers, you know, that are either in the supply chain or in hospitals or whatever it might be, that their life is ramping up, and other customers like Marriott's and Hilton's and Hyatt's of the world, they're completely going the opposite direction. But what I'm not used to is having all these people in my space, you know, taking my space away from me, and, you know, having to like divide it between them and my office, and who's on what conference call and ready to be quiet, and, you know, people are asking questions and, you know, during calls, and it's just like it's a lot to have to deal with them in your space, because I'm fine with everybody like leaving and not being here, and I'm doing my job, but now they're all here, so so it's harder.
Yeah. Tell me about it. There's this person that's in my house, and I honestly didn't see her that often, and I honestly wasn't familiar with her. I didn't actually know her last name. And then now, every time I turn around, there's this like right behind me at my desk, creepy as hell. So I know exactly what you mean. And her name's
Her
not.
name is Hazel.
I was gonna say it's not Hazel.
That's why I'm keeping myself busy with like physics and stats and econ. As you guys saw that lovely physics question that I posted the other day, so just keeping my brain sharp there, doing math problems.
I mean, I think there's a lot of, you know, and guys, listen, one thing I want to say, and I heard a couple people actually say it. I know John mentioned it, and you guys know I'm typically not always serious. I usually make a lot of jokes, but one thing I do want to say is this can be very depressing and very stressful for people, and I get that. It is not something to be taken lightly, and it's not something to be joking about. And so for the moment, I'm not going to joke about it and say, I hope you all understand if you do feel depressed or you do feel stressed by this beyond, I'll say it's your normal. So it is not that it's not normal, but if it's beyond, you know, if it's something that's taking you beyond the, you know, just kind of what we all would refer to as just general daily craziness that's going on right now, please reach out and talk to myself or others in this group. I think that, you know, one thing that we stress all the time, and again, I want to stress it here very specifically, is that I see all of you as family, and I do not want that to ever not be the case. So if you need help, or you need to talk to somebody, or you need to navigate through a problem or a question or a concern, do never hesitate to contact us, please. Or contact people who I think are part of your family, which are the many faces on this screen amongst the many others in this group. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that. Part of tonight's topic is that, you know, is that things feel almost kind of out of control. And out of control manifests itself in different ways for different people. So just understand that, you know, it's not all fun and games for everybody, and I get that. So you know, please feel comfortable reaching out to us if you need anything or need any help, because we're here. And then also, you know that other people in this group, other people outside of this group feel like you do, possibly. You know, there are plenty of people out there that this is a very unusual experience and not something to be taken lightly. So just know that we're here if you need anything. All right. Mike appears to have a question, aka Rick. You have your arm up. It looked like your arm was up because you had a question.
No, I was literally just resting my arm.
Oh, it looks good. Looks very comfortable.
Yeah, well, but just to say something, since I'm unmuted now, I know specifically for me, since this is, you know, all come down, I actually pulled a hamstring, so I had to take about a week off of running. And
whose hamstring did you pull?
It was some guy, I don't know, some guy named Mike. not really sure. But anyways, it was weird not being able to run during the beginning of this, and yet it also kind of freed me up to get back to some of the other aspects that I've been neglecting in my training as of late, such as cross training, getting a lot of strength training and stretching in, to prevent these types of things from happening. So, I've kind of developed a new routine during this, that has helped me to, round out my training more than it had been in the recent past. That's just to say, don't feel like you just have to keep running and stay in your routine as you normally would. Take this time, like you said, to add some aspects that you've been trying to add in and just haven't had the time or whatever. The end.
Oh, that's good. I totally agree. Or do what Drew did and just go run 63 miles because you were out and thought it made sense.
Not recommended. Don't do it. If anything, do what Mike said. Get some strength training in. Do some yoga classes. There's all sorts of stuff online that you can do.
Sure. And honestly, guys, the number one, thanks, Mike / Rick. And then also, guys, seriously, this isn't self-promotion because thankfully I don't appear in, I think, any of these videos, lucky for all of you. But all the stuff on YouTube that we put on there is kind of good, actually. And it's kind of in many ways helpful for where we are. But it's also things you can use well beyond this, hopefully. So take advantage of it. Leslie and Caroline and others took a bunch of time. So.
And as an open invitation, if anyone wants to do any of those, I'll go on a Zoom call with somebody if anyone wants to do them. So just reach out to me, whatever.
I see Chris, who is now Mike, volunteering to be on a Zoom call with you.
Drew,
I know the love triangle that you and Drew and Mike have. So I know. It's beautiful. I like following it from afar, honestly. I mean, just things change. It's different. I get it, guys. I mean, just as an example, I shaved this morning, and this is what this looks like. So nothing is as we expect, and I am planning on shaving. My wife really thinks I look pretty, and you just have to kind of, in some ways, right now at least, I think you kind of have to roll with it a little bit, and we're all experiencing something that we hope again won't experience again. So enjoy. Laura, I think has something to say.
No, I was just going to say, so next week we are going to do the micronutrient / supplementation talk that we were going to do this week, but we thought that this one was a little bit more timely, and a lot of people were bringing it up. So stay tuned for next time. That's what we'll be doing.
Damon has Damon has a question. He raised his hand.
One thing, it kind of piggybacks on what you said earlier about the down the dumps and the blues, and depression, whatever. For about 10 days, my people with Garmin's, which I think is the majority of this group, at least more recent ones, has the what is it called? Training status. And for about 10 days, mine said unproductive. So yeah, I just quit now. After, I'm not sure how I turned it around, but after I did 13 on Saturday, and I was like, oh, it's going to say overreaching or something else. It's just negative. And surprisingly not, it's back to productive. Like, I don't, I don't know, this may be a Laura type of question, but I don't get what the algorithm is there for, okay, you're doing good or you suck and you should just stop running now.
Damon, I saw you out there. We passed. You looked really good. So I think that's
Likewise, yeah.
Yeah.
And then that was helpful too, because I saw you, John. I saw I can't. It's a husband and wife, and she's like Sandy Pace, and he's like probably John Pace. They were out, and then I ran up through Marymount and saw a couple of more people. So that was certainly helpful. And I think, even though we're not, not that I know of, I know I'm not, but we're not joining up in one particular place and then all running together. We're on some of the same routes, and we're going to certainly cross paths. So I think that's helpful in all of this too, to see some of those people and just kind of in passing. And it's somebody that you just recognize from the group. It's not necessarily your pace group, but you see them. You see somebody wearing a BE hat or shirt or whatever, and it's comforting to see those people out there. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I since I got back on the road, now I see all kinds of people, which is terrifying because I look like a fat ball of goo running down the road. But it's it's nice to see people, if nothing more than to wave and continue on. So I got passed handedly by Pat Johnson yesterday, which was amazing. Julie Kraus.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So I kind of wanted to just take off on what Damien was saying. And Rick, I know you and I talked about this like over probably a year ago when the first knit caps came out and, kind of the Pokemon Go thing or whatever that was. Like I see BE runners and I live in kind of BE country. So I see a lot of but I think it's fun to, I always wear my BE gear out. Obviously, I was out today for like a horrifically bad 3 miles, just undescribably terrible 3 miles. But I was out and I was in my BE gear, and I think probably just encouraging people to wear that, and maybe if you see somebody, put it on the web, put it on the group page and cheer them on and be like, hey, I drove by you. I passed, 4 BE people today. Yes, we're all doing the dogs per mile, but it'd be fun to start kind of finding each other out there and see where we are in space and time, and just kind of call it out on the web, call it out on our group site.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, if no one's paying attention, Joe Fernandez is now 2 different people, but he's also using his Philips Hue lights to make it a little more, solid ambience for all of us to watch.
I'm just setting the mood.
It looks great. It looks fabulous. I knew it was the Philips Hue lights because you and I have talked about them so many times. Thanks, Julie. No, I think that's a great point. And it is nice to see people. It's nice to see people and I certainly miss people. So I'm guessing it's, I'm guessing it's, kind of a fun experience for other people to see people as well. So totally get it. All right. Does anybody else have any thoughts, questions, any feelings, anything they want to share? My wife, can anybody, no one heard it. Laura's exact comment, she's muted. She goes, I don't have any feelings. That's exactly what Laura just said. My wife, like, don't I know? I know everybody's like, oh yeah, we already knew that. Laura's like a robot. Oh God.
Except if you get her really drunk, she'll give you a hug and tell you she loves you.
Uh-huh.
The greatest moment of your life.
Yeah. Nothing better than getting hugged by a humanoid.
One thing I experienced on Sunday morning, I ran at Armletter. I got there at 7 a.m. and I was one of 2 people on that little loop. And I was thinking, it was actually Sandy's friend Jill, because she has some trepidation about running by herself. And I said, I was thinking, if there's some sort of psycho killer down here, and he hacks me up into a bunch of pieces, it'll be, forever until I'm found or anything. It's very, very desolate. It's
Hey.
like,
Yeah, it is just different. Hopefully things will, hopefully we'll see some change to the positive here in the near future. And, all we can do is keep on, as they say, keeping on. That's the dumbest thing I've ever said, but there it is. I don't know where I was going with that, but as I started saying that, I'm like, I have to finish the sentence now. That was really embarrassingly stupid. Sorry.
But really, Rick, that's the dumbest thing you've ever
That's
said.
maybe not the dumbest thing, but it was.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I feel
Thanks.
like you've done better.
Thanks, Leslie. That was like a top 37 dumb thing. Oh God. All right. Anybody else have any thoughts?
I just have a quick programming note.
Oh.
I'm not sure if Julie was going to say anything, but Thursday,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but Julie posted a link to her Zoom. She's kindly offered to organize the Thursday night, like virtual post Thursday recovery run drinks. So if you're interested in that, then join us. We're sponsoring, we're unofficially at Braxton. Thank you, Kelly. So if you can get your hands on some Braxton beer to drink on Thursday, great. If not, whatever you want. If you don't have to drink whatever you want, doesn't matter. But that's what we're going to do moving forward. And thanks, Julie, for helping to put that together.
Thanks, Julie. All right, guys. Well, if nobody else has anything, forever hold your peace until next Tuesday. Or otherwise throw something on Facebook. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for sharing. As much as I hate to do this, thanks to my lovely wife, Laura, for making this information so special and awesome.
yeah.
Jeffy!
Thank you, Laura.
Did we just see Jeff? Oh God. Oh, hi, Jeff. How's it going? I haven't seen Jeff in weeks. But thanks again, everybody. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. We'll continue to come up with some other topics and other things to talk about. But otherwise, we'll see you out on the road if we see you, and back here next Tuesday as well. So everyone have a great weekend, and thanks again for being here.
See y'all.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, all.